Welcome to the 100 Master Coaches series featuring master coaches from around the world. Let's journey together on this 100 Master Coaches series, with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Dorothy Siminovitch is an international executive coach, consultant, and coach training educator known for her innovative work in cultivating coaching presence and powerful use of self through the application of Gestalt principles and techniques. Her evolving work on best coaching practices integrates her diverse professional experience with insights from other disciplines, as she promotes awareness intelligence management as the key asset of 21st century transformational coaching. Now on to the show.
Hello, and welcome to the 100 Master Coaches show. This is Coach Mal, and today on the show, a special guest is from Toronto, Canada. She is none other than Dorothy Siminovitch. Welcome to the show, Dorothy.
Thank you so much.
So, Dorothy, I'm just going to jump in right now and ask you how your coaching journey began.
First, I want to congratulate you on becoming a book author. I want to just say bravo. And also I want to recognize
Thank you very much.
You absolutely. It's so wonderful. It's the gift you give yourself and the world. And I want to recognize that you're doing this beautiful thing to interview MCCs to see if we have that little bit of extra, which it's a wonderful invitation. And it's especially wonderful because, you know, Australia is such a wonderful country. And I feel like now you've brought me to visit. So thank you for that. I feel, you know, wow. I don't know, what's that song, Tie Me Kangaroo Down or something. I feel joyful to talk to you all the way from Australia. And I think this question is, I had to thank you first. Now I can answer the question.
Yeah, there we go. I really appreciate that, Dorothy. And like we said in the pre-show, right? We said that we're thankful. I mean, obviously, we're not thankful for the effects of what COVID has done, but we're thankful of what this has become in the world to coaching. And it's connected all of us somehow, even through this technology that we have right today. So very thankful.
Especially, yes.
Yeah. So Dorothy, let's go with that. How did your coaching journey begin?
You know, there's two ways of answering that. One, from when I was very young. Yeah. I was always interested in how can I serve people? And I probably think people who go into coaching are people. That's a category that I identify. We go to serve our connection with people. But the major, I think if I had to look at the start point, I got my Ph.D. in many years ago, 30 years ago, actually.
Wow.
And in organization, I know, I got it. And it was in organizational behavior. And you think about OD, it's very large systems. And of course, you know, org charts. Although my background was a clinical background, so I had an MA clinical background, and then I went to PhD organizational thinking, and especially at the very famous Department of Weatherhead at the Case Western Reserve, you know, where there's Richard Boyatzis, who's very famous, Dave Kolb, who does experiential learning. But I was already teaching in Cleveland at a famous place called the Gestalt Institute of Cleveland. And I liked Gestalt theory. I liked thinking, which is very process oriented. And the event for coaching started with a challenge. One of my workshop participants ran into trouble getting her PhD and wanted to leave. And I had said to her, you know, maybe we could talk about this. And she said, why you? You never really wanted. I said, let's go out for lunch. You never wanted to have lunch with me before. I said, I understand, but why now? I said, because I think I might be able to help you. And that's what happened. We came up, we collaborated, we innovated about how she could shape her previous learning into leaving with a master's, not just leaving with nothing. And then when she asked me to be on her PhD committee, which I did, I said, fine, but I will only do that if I coach you, I'm not going to be your therapist. I'm going to coach you where the goal is becoming a PhD. I said, because what I like that happened is I served your life and not just a challenge or an issue. So coaching got interesting to me as a pro possibility activity, process oriented. And then while I was, again, at the Institute, I was then obviously much younger. So I was the young faculty member. And I said, okay, we're going to take 60 years of Gestalt thinking and marry it together for Gestalt coaching. And isn't it interesting that at 1996, when ICF started as an entity, is when we started, I invited a colleague of mine to join me to offer the first Gestalt coaching workshop, because we used Gestalt theory and we attached it to coaching. And here's when you have something, because 30 people turned up for our workshop, even not knowing what it was. 30 people came to the first workshop and they were fascinating. So beautiful. I knew we had something. And from that point on, I began the work of really studying other approaches to see how did they do it. Because of course, Gestalt thinking is a mindfulness approach. It is a now approach. It's experiential. I wanted to shape a coaching program out of these terms that, developing a curriculum out of this was a bit of a challenge, but that's how it started. And I am actually considered one of the major pioneers of Gestalt coaching. So it's kind of like I'm one of the mothers of Gestalt coaching.
Wow. Firstly, congratulations on that. Thank you for going back in history to tell us that. And for those who don't know anything about Gestalt, why don't you take some time to just share maybe a couple of things, the top 3 things that come to mind right now?
So many people ask, what is it? It's been around for a long time, where the whole is greater than all the parts. So you think of the face, that's a whole picture of the face. But interestingly enough, if you don't see the nose or the mouth of one of your friends, you'll still know the friend by the eyes. So even if you see a part of the face, you will recognize the face. So from the part, you could recognize the whole. And that's actually, it's interesting because we see in wholes, that it's a game that's called Name That Tune, in how many little short bars, you could name it, because we hear pieces and the human brain tries to figure out the whole from a little piece. But what's relevant about the Gestalt approach, I think, for people, without giving a big lecture, is the idea of it's based on what are we aware of? And in today's world, there's so much going on that, it's easy to have almost like what's called an ADD world, an attention deficit world. We go this, should I pay attention to me? Am I hungry? No. There's a phone call. No. There's something I forgot to do. No. There's someone coming. There's many different challenges. And we call that a figure. So for example, for everybody listening, I could say, if you look at my hand now, pay attention to my hand. I'm just going to move my hand a little bit right there. Pay attention to my hand, and you notice my hand, right? Now I say to everybody, you as well, pay attention to the picture directly behind my hand. There's 2 of them.
Right.
Pay attention to the picture, and notice as you pay attention to the picture, what happens to my hand? It becomes blurred because the picture is what you're focusing on. That's called your figure. And the hand is now the background. The hand is still there, but it became the background, and the picture became your figure or the foreground. Now bring your attention back to my hand, where my hand is now your figure. And of course, the pictures are the background. You've just engaged in something that we call figure and ground. And by figure, we are always paying attention to something. What we pay attention to is the figure. And what we're not paying attention to is the background and the ground. And here's the interesting thing. A figure could be what we're hungry for, or what we want, or what we notice. It could be something in ourselves. It could be something outside of ourselves. And if we bring the idea of figure to coaching, one of the things as we meet with a client that we want to know is, what's the figure of interest for this person that they are either interested or stuck with? And here's the important thing, what might they be missing? And so you could think of that as a figure for me may not be a figure for you. And that's interesting. Yeah. And our job with a client, let's pause this for a moment. I know.
Yeah.
I want to support this moment by just saying, oh, look, we just had a phone call. And that was a different figure. And in today's world, what makes Gestalt thinking and Gestalt coaching so relevant is, first, it's a kind of model of neuroscience. I like to think of it as the first model of neuroscience, because what we pay attention to takes our brain activity. At the same time, it involves our head, our heart, and our whole body. Yeah. And so, again, when we work with a client, we get interested in what do they pay attention to, what's going on in their body, and here's the interesting thing, how do we use ourselves as an instrument to feel in ourselves what we can see in our client? Because we know that we are open systems. And what we get very interested is in reading the moment, reading the field, which is you and me, the client and me, reading ourselves, we're an instrument, and reading the two of us, how we're doing. Yeah. Like even now, we had a little call and you said it's okay. And I said, absolutely, it's okay. And yet, how do we use this moment? So what Gestalt thinking is very useful about is the whole phenomena of how do we pay attention, because attention and its meaning-making awareness is how we go about organizing ourselves to get what we want, what we need, and what's missing. And in today's world, Mel, I think that's even more appropriate.
Very true.
Because we know we have a lot of knowledge, but we don't know how to use the awareness. And so what I think actually is Gestalt coaching has become a very hot, in demand model for people to use, because it gives you so many tools to understand yourselves and to read other people.
That's beautiful. It makes me think about how we choose to focus on certain things. There are times where we are all over the place. But the good thing is that now we've got these awareness that we have been missing all this while through different mindfulness practices, just being sensitive to yourself and what you are feeling, as you said, and what's missing and the environment all around us. There's just so many things that just resonated. The first one was that how we kind of notice the whole of things when we're just looking with our mask on, right? So we just notice these bits, but we do recognize the eyes, right? So we're like, hey, that's my friend.
Yeah. Yes.
So many things happening in this world. And yeah, you're right. We're just needing to slow down and focus on what's important right in front of us.
Well, it's just so interesting. And sometimes it may even be hurry up, but let's get clear. What are we focusing on? Because the world is so fast. Can we sharpen ourselves about our focus? It's really a big question.
Absolutely. I'm curious to hear more about what happened after that, right? So got into coaching. I recognize that you got your MCC way back then. So would you like to tell us a little bit more about that journey?
Well, first of all, many people say, are you a coach? I say, yes. I say, are you a facilitator? I say, yes. because we don't just coach at the individual level. We can actually, when you coach an executive, you have to bear in mind that they're working with groups. So we also coach groups. So, I do all of that, but to run the program, to be a director of training, there was a request that all directors of training get the MCC credential.
Oh, wow.
So at the time when I went for my MCC, people weren't even considering it. Although, I also do a workshop on helping people get their MCC. So I laugh when I think about it, because I do that workshop with Marsha Reynolds. And we do this workshop, and she was one of the first ICF presidents. And she likes to tell people, well, it was the first credential. And then, of course, ICF tried to kind of get rid of it because they wanted to normalize, or use ISO standards, which is not something I'm really very familiar with. But the MCC credential means something to so many people. ICF had to keep it.
Okay.
So, because it's like a standard of excellence, right? Yeah. The ACC is the beginning, the PCC is like the soldier of coaching. But when you say to somebody, you're a master certified coach, people go, okay. So I got the MCC in 2005. And I remember being so very proud of it, because I felt that it stood for something. But the funny thing is, I am also a co-chair of a coaching program, Gestalt coaching program in Istanbul. And our faculty got so ambitious that of our 8 faculty, Mel, 7 of them have MCCs.
Wow.
It's unusual, I think. So we're very, very ambitious. And I do a lot of work in Istanbul and Turkey. And I must say, in Istanbul, there's like a hunger for the MCC. So it's become a little niche to coach people towards their MCC. How's that for interest?
Wow. A couple of things come to mind. Number one is I didn't know that they were going to discontinue the MCC. That's the first I heard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your faculty having 7 MCCs, that is unheard of.
Yes, quite proud. I'm quite proud.
I started my journey in 2005. And that was when you got your MCC. Everyone's, I guess, on a different journey. But I'd like to pick on what you just said about the hunger. Yeah. And I have seen that hunger come about in different people as they approach getting into some sort of certification and them wanting to be a part of this. What do you think, Dorothy, since you've been a facilitator, you've been a coach for so many years, are there like special characteristics that kind of say these are the things that help you become a coach? What do you think?
Well, I can tell you that there is some research that I remember from clinical research that more than just different kinds of schools, it was the positive intention of the therapist that made a big difference. The positive intention and the kind of care and personal excellence of the therapist. And I like that, because I think to be a good coach, I think that the person who becomes a coach has to be genuinely interested in human beings. Yeah. There's ICF has introduced the curiosity mindset as a core competency. I love that, because to be genuinely curious in human beings, I use a theory from a friend of mine called the perceived weirdness index. Meaning that all of us are a little bit weird. Yeah. Our job is to offer enough similarity so that the similarity allows you to feel like I'm not so different, but keep the interest about what's unique that could be somewhat weird. Like my husband is now coming home. He's a genius, actually. I know this about him. Yeah. He used to read Computer Magazine at night to go to sleep. Okay. I'm just giving you a little detail. That was his bedtime reading. He's like a genius. And I say him something sometimes. Talk to people about the weather because you're so unique, right? do some small talk. I mean, to narrow down the weirdness and to bring similarity. So in many ways, people who go into coaching, it's not about being perfect. It's about being curious about other people. Like, we're so interesting. Each person really is a work of art. Are you curious about that person? That's actually very important. The second thing is to truly know what you're bringing that is of value to other people. Are you kind? Are you caring? Do you have a capacity to see challenges in an innovative way so that you can say, have you considered this? Provocative thinking could be a real gift. Are you good at that? Like, each of us have specialized gifts. Do we know what our gifts are? Because in coaching, we bring the human gift of ourselves. We need to know what we're offering our client that's going to be, for them, the ROI of meeting us. Wow. And we need to say, do we bring something that's valuable? Like, you invited me and I said, oh, I have some interesting experiences. I could tell Mel about this and he's going to go, wow, because I know they're different. Yes. Do we know what's the difference we bring that we add to other people? And I think the other thing also is, can we tolerate not knowing? That's going to be the new challenge of going forward. There's so much now. The world, people say, we're going to go back to the way it was. Oh, no, we're not. And how are you going to deal with this new emerging world where there might be, like, those islands in the water that are called atolls? There might be a little atoll familiarity, but there's a lot going around that you don't know. How do we co-inquire with others to figure out what is the new knowing in a way that serves others? So we have to be curious. We need to know our gifts. We have to be ethical. I missed an appointment with a client because of the time change. And with that extra hour did not come up in the Zoom, information. And the client tried to be kind to me because they're very gracious. There was a technical problem. And I looked at the situation. I said, no, it was my problem. I'm very sorry. Even though they tried to give me a loophole, owning the truth and being truthful with people creates trust. And if we can't do that with others, we can't do this very deep work that's really required. Learning requires that people expose their vulnerability. Are we safe enough people to expose their vulnerability to? That's such an important issue. Do we make it safe? And also, do we add hope for the value of sharing vulnerability in service of something better?
Oh, wow. And I'm going to be a bit of the devil's advocate. As we say all that, it just seems like a high order to be that. Sure. It's tough. It's tough to be not knowing. It's tough to stay in that space of saying, oh, I'm going to be curious all the time, because our little brain chatter keeps on coming back and say, hey, think about this. The client saying this, so it could mean this. All the meaning making where we're struggling with on a daily basis, let alone a conversation with a person, because our brain is shooting off in another 5-6 directions. How do we manage that?
So I think this is just the question of these times. It's because it's only becoming more familiar that we have, in mindfulness circles, they call it runaway mind. The brain is like, oh my God, or the monkey, like, whoa. And I think we need to know ourselves. We need to know ourselves. It's interesting. What's emerged is there's a book that's just everyone's reading it with good reason, called Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
And what he's really saying, yes, these small little habits that we do train ourselves to calm down, to develop the practices of resilience and centeredness. And I think that we need to do these practices of expecting the monkey mind and then just going, okay, I recognize you. can I calm down?
Yeah.
Can I take 3 centering breaths to find my strength? In a moment where I go, oh my God, because everyone's had this. We need to ask ourselves, you're right, you're scared. Emotional intelligence is to name the fear, and resilience is to find your center. Wow. And I speak this way, I have to make you laugh, Mel, but also my students make me laugh. And I was talking this way. I was answering a question just like this. And one of my students said to me, this is very funny. She said to me, you talk like this all the time.
So calming. It's like meditation.
Yeah. And I started laughing, because I loved it that she found me so like calming and, like wise. And I thought, okay, it's working. I laughed and I said, and sometimes my brain absolutely doesn't. So we both started laughing together. I mean, that's and true. I think actually that's the other thing, I have a model of presence actually that I've been working on and continue to work on, but can we laugh with people? Laughter, and I'm not talking about making a joke, which making a joke can be very tricky. It's at someone's expense. Yeah. So making a joke is tricky, but laughing, because the human condition is so funny. Like we just laughed because what your observation and of course my experience were like, sometimes it doesn't work. That's funny. Can we laugh together? Because laughter is the shortest way for two people to trust each other. Isn't that amazing? So we need to know these human puzzles that make us more trustable to the other person. Like I say to people, do I have your permission to disturb you? I ask that question. I do. Do I have your permission to disturb you? And then they say, you're going to do it anyway. I said, that's true, but I like to ask.
Ask permission.
Yes. So it's coming. And then they say, what if I said no? I said, well, we would stop. And I would tell you what a pity that is to stop. And then you would be curious. And then I'd ask your permission again. So that's how it goes. Because people truly do like to be respected. And they know that little question is a question of respect. It's so valuable. Look, even though we just met today across the world, we know when we have respect from another person. Instantly, it brings us closer.
Yeah. So true. I laugh when you just said that just now. And you're right. Everything that we do is kind of like helping us break down those barriers, right, that we put up to kind of protect ourselves, to keep ourselves safe. Yeah, coaching, I feel, is like a place where we can let down the guard and just be ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we need to. We need to.
So interesting. I'm going to ask you, Dorothy, about this experiences that you've had. I know you've had so many, but I'm going to ask you about a brave moment, right? Where you had to step into that zone and hold on to be that coach to this person, even when it was difficult. Could you share something with regards to that?
You're right. I've had many of those challenging moments, actually, over the years. And what I would say, firstly, those challenging moments, when I remember them now, they turned out to be defining moments.
Wow.
So it's like a pearl, the sand irritates, but makes the pearl. Yeah. And a challenging moment is where we are forced to find our strength in service of what we came for. And I think one of my most challenging, incredible moments actually was about 15 years ago, really. And I was working in Israel, actually. I was leading a team training workshop. And we had our facilitators in rotations observing the group while I would stand up every 20 minutes. I would take a little bell, I would ding it, and I would make in vivo observations. I loved this model. It was very dynamic. People were in awe of the observations we had. We had a student, a very young, interesting man. He was probably mid-20s, very kind of charismatic. He had all these accoutrements. He had long hair, and he was wearing, he looked like a beach kind of, I don't know. Everybody was going, "Ooh, isn't he fascinating?"
Yeah.
And just as I was getting up, he started saying terrible things about me. "Oh, there she is, that Dr. Siminovitch, and I don't care what she has to say." And he started saying very rude things about me. I don't want to say on this podcast, like certain words that are kind of vulgar. And I froze. Oh, I'm going to die here. And not only did I think I was going to die, I think all my students sitting around, the participants of this program, I could feel they're worried that I'm going to die. And the program is over. And I thought, oh
my gosh.
Oh my God. I was so unprepared for that kind of head-on challenge, And this is the interesting thing, Mel, because, and this is, it's my cherished memory now, because I was literally like sitting in the chair thinking, oh my God, I'm dying. And then I thought, get up. Get up. And I'm thinking, oh, I want to die. And like my monkey mind, I was thinking, get up. And then as I was lifting, I was thinking, join him. We say that coaching is a collaborative encounter between us and the client. And my brain said, join him. And I was going, join him. I can't even look at him. And my brain was going, join him. And I'm thinking, I have no idea. And what happened was one of those, I can't even explain it, moments where the idea and the moment came together. Because as I stood up, and I still remember this like vividly, like the Red Sea parted, I stood up and I smiled. Nobody expected a real smile, and this came out of my mouth. I said to everybody, isn't he just brilliant?
Wow.
That's exactly the problem. I said, look at the leadership. Every time they start working, I interrupt them. Just like, and the country, of course, it's a difficult country there. I said, just like this country, they're changing their leadership all the time. You can't trust what's going on. And that's what's happening in this room. Every time they want to start working, I interrupt them with my observations and disrupt them. And they can't trust the learning for themselves when they're being disrupted. So we need to focus on what he's saying and really join him. And all of us have to appreciate that this is real. And then I said, and now let's take a break. And I walked out. I have to tell you, it was a moment where you're smiling even as I say this to you, but because I, first of all, trusted, it's like improv. We have to trust. It's not, people say trust the process. I think if you have the courage to face whatever is going on and meet that with all of your knowledge, with your big heart, with your willingness to experiment, then you can trust the moment. Meeting that, everybody was expecting me to collapse. And just to meet that moment, everybody was so inspired that the rest of the training, it was like from the gods. So I would say challenges come there to force you to find your strength or to make you innovate, or even a small little piece, because people don't really want you to fail. They want you to try.
Wow. I'm going to give you a big round of applause for that one. I don't know what I would do in that moment. I probably run away and sob somewhere quietly. It's like, oh, maybe the person said it's true or whatever, right?
Of course, I wanted to, right?
Yeah,
I did.
That is just heroic.
Well, but Mel, I want to say this to you in relation to your question. What I learned is that courage does not mean fear. It means digging into yourself and finding even a shred and use that shred, because that shred is the story of heroes all through history. In you too. I just know that, but I love that you can feel it. It makes me happy.
Thank you for that. And it just makes us all feel like we're human beings. We're frail. We can get defensive. We can get on the wrong side if it's on the wrong day with us. But the best part of it is we all have a choice, isn't it? You rose up to that and listened to that inner voice. And you said, I'm going for it. I'm just going to flow with that moment. These days we talk about flow, right? And ride that river.
Exactly. Be glad for the wave.
Yeah.
Be glad for the force. Use the force. But it is it is interesting over time. I would, when I work now with people on their resilience, I go, what was the challenge because of that broke you, but also made you? And always people will say the most amazing things about what they learned about themselves because of the challenge.
And we are facing challenging times, Dorothy.
Hard to believe, but yes.
What do you think is the response of coaching to these challenging times?
So it's very interesting. Coaching offered actually to people who are creative, resourceful, and whole. These are the everyday people of the world, including the movers and shakers of the world.
Yeah.
These are not people who define themselves as, mentally or clinically challenged. Although in today's world, many people who say, I'm creative, I'm resourceful, I'm whole, I'm talented, I have an amazing life, and are still having a very hard time. Very worried about what's going to be tomorrow, very worried about how they're feeling, or very worried about people they're responsible for, or people in their family. The level of chaos that has been unleashed in this past 2 years now, it's coming on 2 years in March, is fueling the trauma industry. There's a colleague of mine is offering training, and I looked at it, I thought, I wonder what this is. And they put out their call for a workshop about 2 weeks ago, and the whole workshop is full. And last year I did a presentation for a wellness conference on embodiment, where trauma turned out to be a big theme of the conference. And like 500,000 people signed up for this conference, the embodiment conference, and a huge percentage identified feeling traumatized, unable to stop thinking about something, unable to move forward, feeling, and so I can say this, difficulty sleeping, problems eating too little, eating too much, drinking too much. And these are the talented and the well person. These are not those people that we thought clinically.
Yeah.
So I think what coaching can do, first of all, is we meet people where they are. And we, I love the work of Brene Brown. She has normalized that we shouldn't shame people, and that to learn, we need to really listen and really support opening and being more vulnerable. So we as coaches, we need to invite people to share their truth with us.
Yeah.
We need to do the work of being a trustworthy confidant to meet people in their truth. And we need to ask ourselves, what can we do to inspire people, either healing, because people are traumatized by what's happening. I mean, absolutely traumatized, where the definition of trauma is being unable to feel resourceful to move forward, feeling, doubting yourself, scared. We need to help people with new learning and not be obsolescent. New learning, I had a training on Monday, and I had hired someone to help me with a certain part of the program. And she said, well, we could digitize your questionnaire. I said, you're kidding. Because that looks so marvelous, so fresh. So, everybody was like, they're young. And I said, okay, they're going to love that, right? Open to learning. And we need to help people. Where can you go to learn this? Okay, you feel awkward. That's normal. Normalize the ugly duckling part of learning in Swan very soon. And the other thing that we need, and I love this, is the idea why I said yes to your 100 MCC coaching. Wherever possible, let us come together with others that share similar values. We know it's not about being an extrovert, but we know that there's something important about sharing information. And that comes by being in dialogue with each other. One of my dear former mentors, she used to say, make sure you spend an hour outside every day. because it's, the environment, the world feeds us like trees. I say, make sure you talk to someone that opens your heart at least once a day. We are not wired to be on our own. And coaching is the intervention to invite people to share, and by sharing with another person, come back to themselves in a richer, more fed way.
You said so beautifully. I'm glad this is recorded and we can share this food to the world. The world is hungry. It's hungry for all of this. They're not hungry for more knowledge. They're hungry for more of the real experiences that they can feel, that they can be a part of, because then they can be themselves and talk about the real truths as we've been talking about. That's so liberating, isn't it, to think about it? We have a space that allows our clients to come in. It's like me sharing the other day with my class. I was saying, we sometimes feel we are on this rapids, right? We're going really choppy waters. And then there is a stream that you and I think that we've got to turn into that just to kind of rest for a bit before we head out to that brave world out there, right? To face the challenges again. And I said, that, my friends, is that bit where these fantastic, talented individuals are coming to us and saying, I need that little bit of space for myself, just to sit by the stream for a bit and just absorb what's around me and get to know myself again and again and again before I head back to that whole busy world.
Right. I call those recharging practices.
Yeah.
We need to, what's that car, Tesla, that can be recharged? Well, we need to recharge. We need to recharge by sitting next to the water, sitting next to the tree that is so magical. The great Buddha sat under a tree for how long till he was enlightened? We need to sit with nature to be more charged. And in fact, all this climate change, which I'm praying that we can kind of join hands, it's begging us to heal together, because if we don't sit together, then we can't appreciate how much we do need to sit next to the stream desperately.
Yeah. I'm enjoying this moment so much, Dorothy. And really, I just wish this can go on forever, because I'm also learning as we are speaking. I just love the fact that we can learn every single day. What has been a couple of your learnings since, walking into this world of coaching?
So it's interesting, Mel. I think that coaching is, first of all, a very human activity. As the world gets more technologically sophisticated, what's interesting is that coaching is the most high touch of many of the professions we will look at today. Yeah. It's about how we use our humanity to inspire learning, and our relationship to support strength, and our trust in the client to catalyze their dignity for moving forward. So I think we need to really get very interested into the human condition. In fact, I've been referencing, United Nations uses the term Anthropocene era. It's the era of we are responsible for what happens in the world, because problems that are happening are from human activity, not because of the world itself. So I think that we as coaches can really help with the healing of the world at the individual level, at the team level, at the organizational level, maybe at the larger level. What is the work that the world needs to emerge? One of my clients is a CEO, and what he can do from his perspective is absolutely thrilling. I am like a tiny little, butterfly in his work, but it is thrilling to feel the work that he has done, that our little work touched. And it does touch my heart. So the human work. I think the other thing that's so important is that the world is, it's not that it's becoming more complex, but the boundaries of our world are shrinking and our interdependence is so complicated. We need to wake up. And coaching is about waking up with support. A world that is very interconnected and you don't see other perspectives. We're like a car. All of us have a blind side.
Yeah.
And we help people see their blind side with compassion. I think the third thing now is, as coaches, it's interesting. I love the ICF, not just because I've went through everything, but because I think they really try.
Yeah.
I think their website is impossible to understand, but other than that, I think that they really try.
Yeah.
And so the ICF has really made ongoing training mandatory. Every 3 years, you renew your credential, and they want you to take additional learning. Could be on anything. I think that's a mantra for all of us. What have you learned that's going to serve you to be more focused, to be more provocative, to be more of service to your client? At the same time, what have you learned that has always been true? It's not about repackaging things. It's about remembering that we kind of need to phrase it in a way for this era. I think that some of the greatest thinkers, their judgment, their wisdom is still true.
Yeah. That relevance is so important, isn't it? Yeah. How we can repackage all of that and make that so applicable, so accessible as well. With technology, this has enhanced many things. Some of the decentralization of coaching, where we've got different apps for coaching these days, and people can find a coach very, very quickly. What are your thoughts with that future coming really rapidly with all of these things? Will that kind of lose a little bit of that human touch, as you say, the need for that connectivity with a human being?
I think it's such an important question. There are apps that will help us with our practices. HeadSmart makes this practice that helps with mindfulness meditation. 10% also does something like that. I think certain apps are helpful for helping us do certain practices. There's something called HoloSync that you could do meditation with that, and literally your brain actually attunes in these apps to the sitting time of that. So those apps actually help with sitting time and help with the practices. Certain things that we could do from computers, yes. But in terms of a living, breathing person, I think maybe what we can do is just like this opportunity to be connected to each other like this on Zoom. It may be, of course, that we could do this on our iPhones. It may be that we're going to have an app that we can have a conversation while we're walking together in the world, and we can work on that from a coaching dimension. So I think we can get more creative now with our apps. We know what to digitize and where to be in person. I don't think there's any, it's like in medicine, they're doing, telemedicine now. But if you talk to many doctors, they will say it does not replace the hands-on experience of knowing and seeing that can't always be communicated on a screen. So I do think, again, this is like one of those challenges. When do you know that you have enough? And when do you need to say we need to meet in person? So we're going to be looking for hybrid solutions. And I think our curiosity and willingness to experiment now has to be even more intense. We need to keep checking, like, how was this for you? Did this work? What could we do different? These short little, ROI questions are more important than ever.
Very true. It's about being sensitive to what's happening all around us. Absolutely. And yet being open right? Being very open to the possibilities of how technology can assist us in different ways and reach more people.
Yes.
Dorothy, I know that you are also an author, so I would love to ask a little bit about your book that you've launched.
Well, it's very kind of you to ask, and I'm going to tell you, first of all, I'm very proud to be able to say this to you, that I did the book as a understanding that I run a program, Gestalt Coaching, and I really understood that many of the books, there were some books on Gestalt Coaching from England, but the book that I thought was needed was kind of a textbook almost for our coaching program on what Gestalt Coaching is all about. What is awareness? What are the awareness tools? How to understand resistance? How to create experiments? What are the relationship between Gestalt concepts and ICF competencies? And so I did that in 2017. And the interesting thing, Mel, is that the minute I wrote the book, the ICF changed their name from International Coach Federation to Coaching Federation.
Yes.
And a year later, they updated their core competency model.
Yeah.
And they introduced group competencies.
Yeah.
So because of all of that, I am reissuing my book as a second edition in the next couple of months. So because I thought this is important to include the reissued competencies and the updated competencies. And I think people who look at Gestalt Coaching Primer, the subtitles, The Path to Awareness IQ, it's a model for these times. What helps us pay attention? What helps us have compassion when we have an outdated, habit that does not work? Because the habits that we have, we acquired them for a reason, right? So how do we go about retiring an old habit and implementing a new one? And here's the thing that I say: how do we become masters of our learning experiments? So the ability to be creative is the ability to create experiments. And I think that's a very exciting thing for coaches to know. So readers would be introduced to that. I tried to use as simple English as possible, and I'll tell you why. So I teach, of course, in Istanbul and other countries where English is not the first language, and they say, oh, this English is impossible. If I only spoke English, I would understand this. I said, people who speak English don't understand this. So because the concepts of what am I blind to, we can't even answer. You know why? Because we're blind to it. So we say you have to experience your blindness. You have to experience your stuckness. And our mantra is no failure, no learning, no anxiety, no learning. And so we really do give a lot of, appreciation for people entering into the learning from a Gestalt approach. And this book is like a little guide, I'm happy to say.
A very needed guide to the world that we're facing today. So I look forward for that. It's been a pleasure hosting you, Dorothy. Truly is. I have gained so much more today. As you know, I'm just starting my day and my cup is already full. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, you're a visionary to bring us together, and you're very welcoming. Not every MCC is the same, and yet you've made us all feel that we are relatives. Thank you.
You're most welcome. We certainly are. We're all related.
Yes.
We're all connected. Yeah. Any last thoughts that you may have before we say goodbye?
Well, I just appreciate is really the biggest, if we were in the sky now, this would be a pillow that we're sitting on, appreciation. And I also, I've said to people, I want you to know, Mel, I have many, many wonderful colleagues who are not ICF certified and are brilliant, brilliant coaches.
Yeah.
So I want to really remind people it's not
Yeah.
just about the credential, it's about
Yeah.
the quality of the person. One of my colleagues who I borrow the perceived weirdness index concept, he does not have a credential, but he's brilliant coach always. I do think, however, if you've becoming a coach in the last 10, 15 years, getting credentialed is an honorable path because it gives you a feeling of being part of the crowd. And I think also, I think the world needs us to learn together. And just your inviting me is a recognition that we need to learn together and share and also support each other now. And so I want to say to you out there in Melbourne, I'm excited to know you and thrilled that you're doing this for the world of all of us.
Thank you once again, really. From Melbourne with love.
I deeply appreciate. So until the next time, Mel, thank you so much. And
You're
to everybody
welcome.
who is in your circle, my circle now, many thanks. We are all one. Thank you. Take care. Be well. Be safe. Yeah.
And this has been the 100 Master Coaches show today with Dorothy and myself, Mel, saying, stay safe. Take care for now. Bye-bye.
You have been watching the 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Brought to you by Catalyst Coach. www.catalystcoach.live. We will be right back with our next Master Coach on the 100 Master Coaches series.